Hey guys, Rebel95 recording live from the local county prison cell. So yeah, I've taken a bit of an absence, just because we had been running around doing a bunch of stuff. And, I'm really hoping, now that I think about it, that the Beerus's opponent doesn't get revealed in, like, today or something, because I'm doing this video and and then I'll have to make another one, and that's just gonna completely take away from this, so, yeah, I'm maybe this is bad timing, so I'm not going to make this a big one. I'm going to make this kind of a smaller one. But, yeah, this is something I saw on, I believe I saw it first on the Grambles video, and then I thought, like, it was kind of stupid. Not because of him, of course, I've talked about Granbull many times and how he's great. But, I just thought the fight was kind of stupid, and then I, like, saw other people, like, looking into it, and I was like, now that I think about it, that does kind of work. And I'll just say it has a Pokemon in it, and not a legendary one. So, whereas normally I'd be very skeptical of putting normal Pokemon in a fight, if it's like a specific trainer's one, or if it's like a legendary, so there's like a backstory to it. But just putting like a Pokemon, a random wild Pokemon, like with Goro Machamp. But ever since Goro Machamp, I've been like, okay, I think it can work. And I've been trying to, not trying to, but I've been looking into putting more, uh, like regular Pokemon in, or just Pokemon characters in general in, because I don't really have to research it that much. I just, because, I am very, very overly familiar with Pokemon. And B, I mean, it's free fucking, like, dude, it's a fucking Pokemon. Who's not gonna, like, I don't have to explain them. I don't have to fucking, like, it just draws people in. Um, so yeah, and also it's generally interesting to translate Pokemon into a real world fight mechanic sort of thing. So it's kind of cool to think about. But yeah, so this fight anyway is the Blob from not the Blob, but Blob from X-Men versus Snorlax. Um so right off the bat, I will share something that I've learned. Apparently in Snorlax's Pokedex entry he's like 5 foot something, which does not seem right at all. But whatever. So really, funny enough, there's not as big of a size difference between these two as you'd think. Um, but yeah, let's start off with Snorlax now that I'm already here. So Snorlax generally weighs around, I believe it's like 1,000, or like more specifically, it's somewhere like 1,030 pounds or something like that, if I'm remembering the entry well. And yeah, it's a normal type, and it's mammalian in nature, and it usually spends its days sleeping, eating, and that's it, really. Only fighting when it's absolutely necessary, when it's angered. Otherwise, it'll just completely ignore everything around it, including people jumping on top of it. Nothing will, like, you could crash a car into it and it wouldn't care. Um, but when it's angered, it becomes an absolute force to be reckoned with. Now, one disadvantage Snorlax has in this fight is because it's a wild Snorlax. So, the rule of no tutored moves, no TMs, no HMs, etc., etc. Because Snorlax can act, and that's a disadvantage because Snorlax can actually learn a huge variety of moves from TMs and HMs. So, too bad, so sad. Um, but yeah, among the moves it can learn there are things like, roll out, sleep talk, rest, snore, those three being not only connected, but rest meaning it can heal itself pretty much whenever it wants, snore being a sound based attack that it can use while sleeping, and sleep talk essentially just letting it fight while it's asleep, which is pretty cool. Fight while it's healing. Um, Learn things like what is it? Stockpile, swallow, spit up, to increase its defenses. Um, Body slam, uh, heavy crash. I believe it can learn, which is a steel type move, and its most powerful naturally learned move that it can naturally learn is Giga Impact, which, like most things Snorlax does, is going to leave him unable to move afterwards, or unwilling to move afterwards, if you will. Um, but I mean, if we go by the numbers, it's a 150 base power physical move. But real world implications, Giga Impact is essentially just a full on, absolute, like, every bit of strength you have, all or nothing charge that usually makes actual energy form around you while you attack the person. Um, so yeah, if we equate it to Hyper Beam and we look at, because it is the same typing and power of move as Hyper Beam, but we look at the type of damage Hyper Beam can do as an energy based attack and try to translate that into a physical attack, well, and we take Snorlax's size into account, yeah, that can do a lot with real world application. That could do, a lot of damage. Um, yeah. So again, really big guy, uses, hits really hard. Um, Funny enough, his physical defense is really weak. Got very high HP, very high special defense, but his physical defense is weak. Um, I would bring up abilities, but Snorlax's abilities are Thick Fat and Immunity, which don't really do anything in this fight because Blob's not using poison or fire or ice, so whatever. Um, yeah. So, let's move on to Blob then. I forget his actual name because I don't look up most DC and Marvel characters' name. I don't remember them. Um, but yeah, Blob was a man who was a mutant who didn't know he was a mutant actually at first, and believed that he was just a freak of nature, just morbidly obese. Then when he learned after visiting the Xavier school that he was a mutant, he went back to the circus because he was working at a circus, and essentially brought up like a rebellion to fight against Xavier and try to take over the mansion for some reason. But since then, he's kind of just been a pain in the ass for the X-Men. But his mutant ability isn't just that he's big or fat or anything. It's his skin is super flexible, super durable, and if and is essentially the reason for his ability. It's not so much the fat, though his body does generate fat just very easily and like mounds and mounds of it. But his skin is really where the mutant ability lies. And then there's the secondary ability, which is he can extend. It said something about him being able to like extend his gravitational field, or like merging it with the Earth's gravitational field, essentially meaning that while he's touching the Earth, he cannot be moved by any. Well, he cannot be separated from the Earth by any force unless he retracts this field. And there are some workarounds to this. We've seen characters lift the ground from underneath him, or lift him up and the ground was like stuck to his feet. So it is possible to move him. It just requires you to be able to lift him, and he weighs about, I think it was like 700 pounds or something. And also separate the Earth from underneath him. We've seen like the Hulk do this, but we've also seen him take hits from the Hulk and Spider-Man and whatnot. Like I said, his skin is more or less impervious, and it goes even farther beyond that, where he's able to, like, because there's so much fat between his skin and his nerve endings, he actually cannot feel pain from direct attacks. And seeing as how, like I said, his skin is nigh indestructible, he can't be moved, and he can't feel any pain, he's essentially impervious to pretty much any form of physical attack. He's taken bullets, cannonballs, missiles. I believe Wolverine even tried to like stab him, and it just sunk into him before. I mean, this guy just doesn't, does not care about being attacked, with the exception of, energy based attacks, which can actually damage him. Things like Cyclops, Iron Man, stuff like that are able to actually harm him. Um, so, with all of that, he does become he's a very interesting character to fight, when you consider, you've got guys with swords, guys with lasers, guys with animal traits and stuff. This guy's kind of a odd matchup, but without knowing specifically how to take him down, it throws a lot of people for a loop. But anyway, getting into the fight itself. Unfortunately, to coin a phrase from False Swipe Gaming, Snorlax has no real viability in this fight. Again, both are like they've actually got the opposite type of defenses, whereas Snorlax being specifically good against special types of attacks, whereas Blob has none. Blob is really good against physical types of attacks, which Snorlax specifically only has, and he's pretty much immune to all physical attacks. And Snorlax, a wild Snorlax, not being able to, um, use any sort of energy-based attacks because he can't have access to TMs or HMs, really has no way to hurt Blob. I mean, there are some cool things that he can do in this fight. Like I said, being able to heal himself, fight while he sleeps. The closest thing to like an energy-based attack Snorlax can do naturally is Snore, which is a sound-based attack. And I'm sure there's some villain that's fought Blob that's based around sound, but I just imagine with all the fat insulating him, it wouldn't do anything. So, yeah, there's just really no way for Snorlax to really combat the Blob, especially when he's taken hits from people like the Hulk. I know for a fact Snorlax is not stronger than the Hulk. Maybe Beware would be, I don't know. But, yeah, so unfortunately, this is a quick and simple answer. Blob wins. It's a Marvel character. But anyway, it's kind of fun to do. Just wanted to get an episode out of the way so I wasn't going on weeks and weeks without doing one. But yeah, Verbal Engine 95. See ya.